what they said.
This is weird. Starting it over again.
It's crazy.
Holy moly.
We're going back to basics at this point.
We really are. This is the A Sports Podcast. My name's Amir. That's Brant.
Hey.
That's Morrow.
Oh, it was Morrow.
Hey, how are you?
Yeah. Are you back, Morrow? Are you back?
Man.
You want to say your catchphrase or no?
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
No, we couldn't.
We can hear.
Hey, how are
We
ya?
couldn't. There you go. Today is the weirdest 420 I've ever witnessed. I don't know,
420 lockdown edition. I guess last year's too, but
yeah, for sure. So we wanted to start off with the news of the George Floyd saga, or I guess the trial of Derek Chauvin.
the Derek Chauvin trial is the
probably
the right way to go about this. I've seen a lot of people call it like the George Floyd trial.
Yeah, it's like he wasn't on trial.
I didn't think anything of it until someone mentioned it. It's like George Floyd wasn't on trial. Like he was just murdered. Like is it nothing to do with George Floyd? It's just Derek Chauvin.
Exactly.
Like,
so the verdict came out in Chauvin's trial today that he was guilty of all three charges, which is great.
Shocking.
But-
I didn't think they would actually do it, but great.
Especially after how quickly the turnaround was, you would assume that something would have went wrong.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot on social media that, this is a win. This is all these positive statements that have come out of this.
Yes.
And that's true to a certain degree until you can't let George Floyd die in vain, and that this is just another moment in history
Yeah.
to where
Doesn't change anything.
it doesn't change anything until the next thing happens, and the next thing happens.
Yeah.
This
Let
is
this
a
be the
win.
one that makes the change.
Exactly.
Don't just do this and be like, all right, well, we did one good thing. Let's just move on.
Yeah.
Like,
So
make this be the
words,
reason that there's change.
So everyone's words that, hey, it means a lot today. It means a lot that you're saying stuff. Put that into action and let it actually be a voice of change instead of
Exactly.
it just falling by the waysides,
Like,
which it's happened in the past.
today,
And I hope it doesn't
for
happen
me,
again.
Yeah.
Shoot, go.
Yeah,
go.
like today for me is just like the bare minimum in the sense that
Right.
there should not have been today's news should not have come as any shock to anyone, right? Like this was the bare minimum that should have happened. From here, it's on us to be accountable for what, we're all talking about now. Like it's all easy to just speak and, try and say we're
the
going to
right
do
thing
better. But
today.
now it's on us. Yeah. Like it's actually on
100%.
us to actually go out and do it.
Yeah.
Right? Like words are easy. It's easy to write up. Like, I don't know, like I'm going to segue this into our next little point here, but like it's easy to do what the NHL did and just say this little one sentence thing as their statement on the matter. And it's another thing to actually go out and do it. Right. Like I'll let you guys carry on that one. But
So my whole thing with bringing this up was that the NHL statement was the antithesis of
yeah,
we're gonna go along with everyone else and what they and make good by recognizing this.
You know the GIF
But
where it's just like this and you're pointing up? That's basically their statement. It's just like they just saw another statement. They're like, yeah, this.
So what I wanted to say with it is, do you remember like the memes of like the shit of the sandwich that's like just a bare bone sandwich? That was the NHL statement. Or it was like the meme when people went and visited the White House and Donald Trump had McDonald's. That was the NHL statement.
It's just not.
I just
not
found it absolutely
ideal.
ridiculous. I found it ridiculous that they in the NHL statement. Well, they put out their statement. Everyone rips them and everything, and now they're just retweeting all the other team statements that are just far superior to theirs. Like, what are we doing here?
Like,
not
you
for
don't have
anything,
to.
and a
but
white problem.
You pay a staff, you pay a communications staff to do this. Like these are some pretty like tech savvy and very understanding people in terms of the world of the media. They should know how this works. Like
The-
you
It
You
proves
gotta
to me
at
that
least
there's no person of color inside of the NHL front offices
I
that
mean,
released this. Like, honestly,
It wasn't New York Rangers bad. They didn't even really
with the
mention
NSG
it.
network,
Did you see their
well,
like
shocker,
the-
shocker.
like-
James Dolan,
Yeah, that's the most
or like a
Rangers
PR yeah.
statement you've ever seen. But like, you don't have to make some big ass statement like this
No.
long ass paragraph. But if you're gonna do one sentence worth of stuff, at least make it meaningful. Like this is just like the typical like, it's a typical hockey answer. Like you're not really saying anything while also saying something. It's
Yeah.
just like
they
and
don't want to say anything that'll get them in trouble, which is
No.
like, how can you get in trouble in this situation? It's just do the right
this is
thing.
the worst
and-
option. This is the worst option you could have done is say
Absolutely.
something this meaningless. Like if you're gonna say something short, make it worth something. Say something about it, and just like boom, done, and make it look like a half decent graphic. This is just like size 8 font and this fucking big ass graphic where you can't even see the
Here-
words.
Here's the statement.
Yeah.
While we hope the end of the trial offers a chance for healing, we remain committed to actively engaging in the movement for equality, and we invite our fans to join us in supporting systematic change. One sentence.
Yes,
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
I'm 200% sure one of the players of the NHL at some point tonight is going to post something better on their own personal media
100%.
account.
the Penguins
what's
already
sad.
did a better job.
Yeah. The Blue Jays put out a great statement. They really did.
But like you're paying this kind of person to go out and put that out there as a PR statement, and I'm 200% sure that a hockey player by
100
their
The
profession will
some of the
produce
dumbest
something better than
athletes-
that.
Some of the
That's what I'm
dumbest
saying.
athletes are going to put a more eloquent statement than a multi-billion-dollar organization. It's
The
a
Buffalo
fucking-
Sabres, who have been taking L's all year long, put out a significantly better statement than the NHL did. Like they've done nothing right all year, and they finally nailed this one.
Yeah.
Like it's just that's brutal.
Yeah, I just thought it like it shows a lack of awareness that the sport has as a whole, and that's why like I can't blame people when they say hockey is a white sport and they don't support it, because it is, and it's disgusting that we live in a time where a tragedy happens and they try to
This is the
brush
best
it by
they
the
got.
wayside. Exactly. Yeah. Like what?
Brutal. Brutal.
Since we're talking about the NHL, I guess we gotta make up for lost time and discuss.
How much time do we got?
I mean, it's
Oh,
been like
fuck.
a month, hasn't it?
It's
I think
been a
literally
while.
been a month.
Oh,
Well, it's been more than a month because I didn't post the last 2 episodes before that. So
Yeah, they're still on YouTube at least, so I mean, you
Perfect.
can listen to it there. But
yeah.
yeah,
Foligno to the Leafs, Hall to the Bruins. What else happened?
Jeff Carter to the Pens was kind of neat.
we have a
Right.
new starting goalie
Dave-
in Toronto.
Oh yeah,
Another one. David Savard
And
to
then
the
Dr-
Lightning was interesting.
that was interesting.
Nothing groundbreaking. Like Taylor Hall was a big one, but I don't think it's momentum shifting
We
to
have
me.
a new
I mean, he's been good,
leader
hasn't he?
in career games
Yeah.
played.
Right? That happened
Tony
yesterday.
Marlowe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly, the only news that matters is the Leaf news. I don't know why we're even bothering with the
Yeah,
rest of
I
it.
mean,
Which one?
Some
The-
stuff that's
the-
worth mentioning,
All of it.
but like
It's
anything that's
all
of
worth
talk
more.
right now. It's all Leafs talk.
Yeah.
Let's
All
go,
right.
yo.
You want to start off with the goalie? You want to start off with Foligno?
Can I just say, Jack Campbell, I love the man. He's a good backup goalie. He's an incredible human being. He's one of the nicest human beings on the planet. But at some point, you got to be able to give Jack Campbell a little bit of criticism. And it's really funny to see the criticism of Jack compared to the criticism of Freddie when he was struggling. Because, like, Jack has let in some muffins in the last 2-3 starts that he's had. And it's just like, oh, it's not Jack's fault. It's the defense. You gotta get that better. It's like, man, Jack just let it in through his chest. Like, at some point, you're just like, yeah, you'd appreciate a save. You said it to Freddie 4,000 times. You're like, oh, you want a save there on that breakaway. Well, I would like a save on a 2-on-1 that gets a shot right at him. And I'm like, I think Jack's a great goalie. But at some point, he deserves a little bit of criticism, too. And, like, he hasn't been great. It's not the reason they're losing. But he hasn't been great. And I think people need to kind of sit somewhere in the middle on both goalies as opposed to just like Freddie can do no right and Jack can do no wrong.
It's got to be some sort of consistency. Like there was the OT winning goal that it squeaked right through his fucking shoulder,
Brutal.
and you can't blame that on anyone else but the goalie.
No.
Like I'm sure would love to have that back. And
The coverage sucked
again.
Like it wasn't great, but the goal is blame on the goalie there. Like you have to make that save from that angle.
Because it's 2 straight OT losses, correct?
Did they lose the game before in OT, or was it
Calgary?
Wasn't there a game in between?
Calgary was
there a game in between?
Or was Montreal before Calgary or after Calgary?
Leafs schedule. Okay, but okay.
Regardless, there are 2
Regardless
OT
of the
losses in a quick amount of time.
I felt like throughout the entire process, yes, Jack was good, but also he wasn't the reason that they were winning more than they found ways to win despite how he played, which was a lot of the same narrative that happened with Freddie Anderson throughout the entire year. They were they had the best points percentage in the league. They had the best record in the league.
Before this 4-game run, they had the best record in the league.
Yeah, like when Jack started off on that historic stretch, he wasn't great in every game. Like let's be
he just didn't face much. Like he didn't have to do a whole lot.
No. So I ask you, is there a goalie controversy in Toronto, and are the Leafs just cap circumventing until the playoffs, and Freddie will start as soon as the playoffs start?
I think Freddie comes in and starts.
Really?
I don't see a situation like he's the guy you're paying your money to. He's the guy that's been there, done that for your franchise. And as of right now, like Jack Campbell had the opportunity to seize this moment and run with it, and he just didn't. Like he kind of dropped the ball. And as of right now, there's question marks there. I would prefer to see Freddie, who's been a starting goalie in the NHL, stepping into the playoffs, as opposed to Jack, who's kind of fumbling it right now. Now Rittich is there too, and he exists, but like. I don't trust David Riddick to do a whole lot, especially in the playoffs. But I like having him as an insurance policy. It's nice.
I agree. It makes me feel better. Okay. I don't like the narrative of Jack Campbell can basically pull a Jordan Binnington and just ride to the cup. Like, just because he comes from this basically unknown and just like that is an anomaly. That is not a situation that always happens. In this scenario, it's David Riddick. If the Leafs somehow have to play David Riddick, which
and he pulls that off
out of all 3 goalies,
he's looked the best.
Honestly, he's
the best
if there's any of the 3 to do it, it's him because Jack Campbell's already done it in the 10-0 streak or whatever, however long it was.
Yeah, he's out of luck. His luck has already come and gone.
Seen in the past, like he I don't think he still has it in him to carry them
Fred's
that far. Like his back is broken from all these stupid freaking Game 7 losses. It's got to be David Riddick.
If there's any guy that's gonna pull a rabbit out of his ass right now, it's David Riddick. Hutch is gonna somehow get to the top of the list.
He was pretty good.
No, he was like
he let up 7 goals in that last game with Colorado.
Doesn't count.
That was last year.
Yeah, he's
okay. So we all think that Freddie gets the job.
It's Freddie's net.
I don't know if I think it.
It's Freddie's net.
Yes,
to
but
me,
I think it's a short leash.
Yeah, for sure. I'm not saying it's not. I think Jack's done a good enough job that like if you get into a situation where you think you can make a change, then Jack's right there, and I don't hate moving it. But as of right now, if the playoffs started tomorrow and Freddie was magically healthy, it's Freddie's net.
So that makes me legitimately nervous going into the playoffs because Freddie's coming off of.
You have no idea what Freddie is.
He hasn't played games in months by the time it happens.
No.
And then you're just going to be like, here, we're going to throw you out into the most high intensity hockey that we can and go be our savior. Like, that's insane to me.
Yep. It's tough. It's a real shit spot to be in.
Absolutely. And I mean, hey, you could say the same thing about Nikita Kucherov, but there's a difference between Nikita Kucherov and Freddie Anderson.
He doesn't have as big a role as Freddie Anderson.
Exactly. Legitimately, yes. Like Kucherov is obviously the better player, but he doesn't have to stay in there for 60
4
minutes.
games, and Tampa will.
He can just work his way back on their 4th line because they're so deep, but they don't even need him.
There's no working his way back for Freddie here, and I legitimately feel sorry because he's put into a no-win situation at all.
No,
and this comes with the most pressure that's been in Toronto. You're a free agent coming into this summer. This is your last contract that you're basically getting. The Leafs have went seemingly all in on the season. by
Mhm.
trading a first round pick for Nick Foligno,
Mhm.
and you have no rope because you have Jack Campbell and now David Verdick as insurance behind you.
Yeah. You have to be perfect.
I'm nervous as shit if I'm Freddie and as a Leafs fan.
Maybe that's good for him. Who knows? Maybe he needs
Pressure?
that little bit of pressure to be like, you know what?
More
I have
pressure?
to do my
More
job.
pressure than being
Not
the
like,
starting
but
goalie
this is
in
a different
Toronto?
type of pressure,
there was
right?
nobody
Like
behind them. There was nobody behind him in past years.
exactly.
Like,
So this
in
is maybe
the
this
sense
is a different thing where it's just like, you know what? If I don't do my job, I'm not gonna play. So like,
Right.
whereas like the pressure before was just like the fans hate me if I don't do my job. It's like that's the same no matter even if you do your job half the
Yeah.
time. But
Mm-hmm.
at this point, it's just like if I don't show up and play the way I should, I'm not gonna play anymore, and I'm not gonna make money because there's no point in signing me next year because I suck.
Mm-hmm.
So you kind of got to go out there and do your job with that pressure. It's a different type of pressure than it was
Mm-hmm.
before.
I haven't been watching all the Leafs games as intently as I normally do. Just because the regular season is such a drag at some point. It's
getting so boring.
It's so
Yeah.
boring.
The whole NHL season as a whole right now is just getting so boring. I'm like,
That's why
pretty much every playoff race. I'm like, this is just I'm done.
It didn't matter. The month that we missed, if we're being honest, didn't mean shit.
We're in the same spot
didn't-
that we were last time.
We would literally be saying, wait for the playoffs. That's all it is.
Uh-huh.
That is all it. And thankfully, we're 1 month closer
Mhm.
from the last time we recorded to the playoffs.
The North
And
is
yet
no
they-
different than the last time we recorded.
I mean,
And yet the Leafs still have the same exact problems as they did before.
Yeah,
Goaltending,
nothing's
power
changed.
play. That's it.
Nothing's
we've taken a hiatus only to resume the conversation exactly how it kind of left itself. It's like, okay, we're in first place, but again, like all of this is great talk and all, but like until we see what happens in the playoffs, like this is all
There's
speculation at this point. Like
Yep.
we don't know what Freddie's going to be until we actually get there, right?
Yep.
And we don't know how the team's going to play in front of them until we actually get there. They can go on these high streaks where they're winning 5-6 games in a row and 9 out of their last 12.
They
lose
have
4 straight, and it's like it won't matter because they're still going to make the playoffs at this rate.
Yeah. Even with like this last 4 garbage games that they've played, they still have the second highest point percentage in their last 16 games out of every team in the NHL.
That's because
Like
the
they-
North Division is the garbage division.
It's
Sure.
It's
I
not
don't
even the
agree with
worst.
it.
It's not even the
I don't
worst
agree with
one.
it.
I say it as a
Yeah.
joke because it's
Yeah.
not even the worst one.
It's- I-
because that's what literally everyone says.
Everyone
literally
everyone
what
wants to
everyone
act
More
like it is.
medium than anything. It's more mid than anything.
It's like the average. I think there's
Yeah.
one division that's any good, and it's not the East. But
The Pacific, if that's the one, or
Mm-hmm.
the West, whichever one that one is, the one with all the California teams. It's a
the
cakewalk.
Scott Trade Center Pacific. I don't know what it's actually called. I think
Yeah.
that shit is
the Bell Media,
whatever it is.
Atlantic
Yeah. That one.
Central.
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
Don't ask me. Yeah.
Bottom line, no one in the North has to play the Buffalo Sabres. So don't tell me that the North is the worst division.
Like Ottawa will show up on given.
Yeah,
nights.
they have many
Give them their
times.
due. Give them their due.
Buffalo's shown up like 8 times. That's it.
I got
difference.
it. I got to interrupt this.
Okay.
Can you guys go onto Twitter right now and go
No.
onto the Las Vegas Raiders
Oh no.
Twitter page?
Is this bad?
It's bad.
Oh, good.
No, I almost had it. Las Vegas Raiders. No, God, no. It's a pin beat.
What the fuck?
What the fuck?
Like I
is that?
get what they're doing.
I get what the sentiment behind it, but buddy, what?
Whoa.
That's a miss.
This, and then they didn't even produce their own statement. They just retweeted the NFL one.
Retweet the NFL, yeah. I
That's a
appreciate
bold-
them
that's a bold
trying
one.
something. This is not the time, but I appreciate them
This
making
is-
an effort to do something.
This is a
That's,
social media
um,
guy trying to be his own brand and trying to
Yeah.
like, be like the
Yeah,
one that stands out. This ain't it.
it's not good.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
the NHL is off the hook for the worst statement. That is awful.
Yeah.
They gotta be tweeting out more after this, right? Like, there's gotta be a follow up, like blah 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 blah.
God. All right. Back to the other racist sport.
Yikes! All right. So
We all feel good about the Leafs, I guess, or what?
I feel
It is
neutral.
what it is.
I
feel
feel
the exact
exactly
same-
the same
it's-
we
yeah.
did before. Like
They're
The only thing that
one
makes
week
me
we're gonna
feel-
win
and if they
6.
don't.
Yeah. Like it's
All right, let's talk about
it's a
let's
give
talk
and
about
take.
Foligno then.
where do you want to start with Nick Foligno?
Let's start with David Savard then, because
Okay.
he went from being a throw-in apparently in the trade to Tampa, and then the next day, after Savard gets traded, Foligno is going for a first-round pick himself.
Right.
Huh. Let me be real for a second and say I do like the move of getting Foligno. I like the idea of it. A veteran leader. He's a bitch to play against.
Yep.
He's going to bring a lot to the team. He's basically Patrick Marleau except good, essentially. I think that's a
He's
fair
closer to
comparison.
prime Patrick Marleau.
Agreed. And he's going to play the PK, I would assume. Like he's going to help in all different phases of the team.
Yep.
But a first round pick.
So much. When this deal hit, there seemed to be two sides of like the Leafs fan. It was just like the typical people you would expect to love this deal, like the old ass people that were like, he's gonna bring truculence and he's got heart and character and culture and all this bullshit. And it's just like,
Yeah,
and like,
like
yeah, you're
middle-aged-
okay, I get it. And they're like, giving up a first means nothing because who cares? It's a guy you need. And I'm like, okay. But then there was the other side with like the hardcore stat nerds that are looking. They're like, his analytics are terrible and he's not a good player and he's not worth this and that. I'm like, you know what? Both sides are wrong. And for one time in Leafs Nation, both sides are very wrong. Because like
It's
this
an
is
overpay, but it's
yes.
a good move.
exactly
Yeah,
like it's
it's a
the
good
player they
overpay.
need. Yes.
Yeah.
It's also a terrible trade in the terms that you gave up a first for a guy that's realistically an overvalued, truculent guy. Like I think he's a player that they need, but I think you
brings
could have got the same.
intangibles.
Yeah, you could have got those same intangibles for way cheaper than a first and a third. But it's a player that the Leafs needed and they brought in, and I think it helps the team. And realistically, if you're looking to go all in, then yeah, fine. You dump your first and your third if that was the asking price. I just think they could have done it differently than what they did.
I think it was an expendable asset.
Yeah,
as far as I'm
especially this year.
concerned.
You didn't give up a prospect, which I think is
Yeah,
worth
and I
more
think
than
that
your
was
first
the
round pick.
biggest part of it. Going in, we didn't want. I mean, I think I can go and speak to all three of us in saying we didn't want to lose Robertson, we didn't want to lose Sandine, we didn't.
No.
I mean, if we had to, maybe I would have been fine. Me personally,
Yeah.
I would have been fine giving up Liljegren if the
That was
player
another
was
one.
the right player.
Yeah.
But like, I wouldn't have wanted to give up on either of the three. And we were able to
Agreed.
do that and bring in a guy who wasn't the best available player on the forward available. He was
He was the
second
best fit for the Leafs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, the best player that was available went for
Taylor
a
Hall,
second
a second round
and
pick.
a scrub.
That in
That
itself
kind of
was-
hurts. I'm like,
hurts.
you gave up so much for Nick Foligno, and
Especially-
you could have got Taylor Hall too.
Especially to Boston.
Yeah,
That hurts even more.
yeah, it's fine. Boston's gonna miss the playoffs.
Are they?
But-
I'm not even paying attention.
I
to
hope
this
they
game.
They're,
do,
they're only
but-
4 points up on New York right now, and New York is
They have
flying.
games. You gotta
They do have
remember
games
the
in hand. They do have
this.
games in hand.
They have. You have to go into like one of these hardcore stats. Games against Buffalo remaining. I think they
But
got a good
they
chance.
didn't look good against Buffalo. They almost
They
lost to
didn't.
Buffalo the last time they played them.
Yeah. It was.
Who
a
knows,
shootout,
man? Who knows? Like,
But
anything can happen, and it'd be wild if Boston makes
Mm-hmm.
that move and misses. It's just like to see them go from like we want a first and a top prospect for Taylor Hall, and then get neither of those two things.
Nope.
I'm like, oof. That's just bad business because I think the Leafs were interested in doing
Well, no,
something
no.
like
Here,
that.
here's the best part.
I think it
Here's
was
the
the
best part.
Islanders.
Someone offered a first round pick and they turned it down because they wanted to retain less money. Apparently, that is apparently.
But they
a
still
thing.
retained 50 and threw in Curtis Lazar.
The
Buffalo.
Islanders were the ones that started it. The Islanders
Were they?
were high on Taylor Hall. They couldn't get the deal done. They walked and went to New Jersey and said, "Hey, we'll take Palmieri and we'll take Zajac."
Which is a good
So
deal
now
for them.
they're out of the running. They might have circled back after, but you knew that they weren't going to pay the same price that they
Right.
were originally going to. And then it just fell in the Bruins' lap, and it's like, okay, here's a second Anders Bjork. This is what we got, and they had nothing left but to say yes.
Noted top prospect Anders Bjork.
He did
It's
play
like-
well in the first two games.
like
he
when,
scored and got some assists. So
It was basically the definition of like when everyone's been asked to the dance and you end up when you got
Everyone's you're just like, shit.
that's the Sabres. That is the
that is
Sabres.
that is the
That is the
Sabres.
Sabres.
They had the best asset. They had the best.
Yeah, they're so good looking going to this dance. They're like, how are you? So much flair and personality to them. They just waited too long and everybody was already linked up. And you're like, well, shit.
Yeah,
And they went and found
my-
someone
my
off the
family-
streets. How much?
My
how
family
much do you
uses
cost?
my family uses the analogy of waiting for the pizza.
Ah,
You know when like you go to a party or like at school
okay,
and there's like boxes of pizza.
right.
So my brother,
Yep.
my older brother, he
Right.
would wait for the pizza and there'd be like none left.
Right.
Meanwhile, my dad would always say, I would be there holding like 2 or 3 slices of pizza.
I'm eating. I don't give a shit. I'm getting mine. Yeah, for sure. Buffalo was your brother.
Waited for the pizza. Yeah, that's what he did.
That's funny.
Oh, I missed this.
Serves them right. It's the
It's a,
Sabres.
that's a tough deal. It's just it's wild to see. Now, where does Foligno fit in this team? Fully healthy. So let's say Zach Hyman comes back in 2 weeks, because obviously Zach Hyman's going to miss some time with a knee injury. Let's say Zach Hyman comes back in 2 weeks, and Foligno's here. Riley Nash is. I don't know if Riley Nash is ready by then. What does this lineup look like to you guys?
So everyone's saying that Gauchos look great.
Right.
True
I
or
think he's
untrue?
looked fantastic.
Yeah, he's giving you.
He's
whatever
looked
you want.
fantastic. He's been really good with the puck. He's been really good off the puck. Like he can fit
Yeah,
in that
he's
top
been-
6.
I feel better about putting Zach Hyman in the top 6 ideally than I do Galchenyuk. I think that's fair based off of the
Maybe.
past 5 years that we've had with Zach Hyman.
As much
I
shit
think-
as I've talked about Zach Hyman, he can at this point this year he's been driving lines. So I don't even think you need him on the first anymore. I think when you put him down on the third, your team gets way deeper. Personally,
I like putting Foligno in the top 6. I think it just makes sense. You pay that price, you got to use him. If you're adding him to John Tavares and William Nylander, I love that fit personally.
Right.
Or even with Austin and Mitch, because like you figure that guy's going to go into the dirty areas and he's going to go get the puck, which frees up your 2 centers and your playmaking wingers. Like I just think that it makes sense to have Hyman and Foligno both basically play that role in the top 6. And then Galchenyuk, you never know. Like you're basically putting him in a play driving scenario on the third line, which maybe you're asking too much of him in that situation, that he's actually got to drive the play instead of just be a cog in the machine.
Yep.
But like I would personally want to get the most out of my top 6 rather than
Sure.
my top 9.
sure. Right now, as it sits, the way Gauch has played, and shockingly, the way Nick Robertson's played, I think the 2 old guys on the team being Simmons and Jumbo, I think one of them has played themselves off this roster for the playoffs.
I think.
Interesting.
I think it's Thornton, and a lot of people I know have been calling for it. They're like,
Really?
why is he in?
He has not been
I've
good.
missed this.
He
I've
hasn't been
missed
good.
this? Vindication.
Yeah, the guy, he looks very old. But like, so
I mean,
Gauch,
it's
Matthews, and
inevitable,
Marner
though.
has been probably the best combination all year long. Like they look fantastic, and Austin is scoring at like a goal and a half a game right now. And then they threw Nicky on that line with Nylander and Tavares, and that's the best that line has looked all year long. And Nylander looked like he was flying. Tavares is way better now. And Robertson himself looks great in both ends of the ice. Like he's doing an incredible job. So I think that's your top 6 right there. And then Hyman comes back. I think you put Foligno in the center with Hyman and I wrote it down.
Mikheyev.
No, I put Mikheyev on the 4th, but
Kerfoot.
I had Simmons on the 3rd at that point, but I don't know if it would stick like that. You could throw Mikheyev up there.
They got an old third line right now of Spezza, Thornton, and Simmons.
Yeah, it's not great.
geriatric line,
Yeah.
as it's well known.
It's
I say you
kinda-
add Foligno to that and you just throw a party and say, hey, find some like magic pixie dust to make you guys
I mean,
all
then you
better.
also got to think Riley Nash,
And that's
centering the
what I
fourth
was
line.
just
So
about
one
to
of them's
say.
got to, one of them's got to get bounced.
So what you could do is you could put Spezza on the 3rd line right wing, throw Riley Nash at center on the 4th, and then have Simmons and Mikheyev on the wings of that 4th line. Or you're just rotating Simmons and Jumbo until one of them figure out which one's going to take the reins and run with it. But personally, I think one of the two of them have played themselves off this roster. Not Simmons is terrible news because like that guy was great at the beginning of the season. His injuries clearly
Injury
affecting
derailed
him.
him.
Jumbo's just
And it
ancient
wasn't-
and doesn't have it.
And Simmons' injury, it wasn't even like it was his body's break. It's literally he got
No,
hit with
it's
the
a
puck.
freak
It's not like
accident. No.
exactly. So that's why it's awful.
It's terrible.
But I like a guy like Simmons in the lineup a lot more because he brings more exactly. Like it's
Like,
so
you get-
stupid,
He's a
but
better
it's-
playoff guy.
Yeah.
You get the same thing out of Spezza, if not and more, than what you get from Thornton,
Yeah,
right? Like both
yeah,
are playmakers,
100%.
both can
Uh-huh.
carry the puck per se. Like Spezza on the fourth line and third line can drive the play. Like he still has it in his legs to make the smart play, carry it up, and he's got the shot, which Thornton doesn't have.
No.
No.
So
So
I
are we
mean-
saying Kerfoot, Spezza, Simmons third line? I don't hate it.
I'd have personally. I'd have Kerfoot,
Or
Spezza,
Kerfoot
and
centering.
Foligno. I don't know who centers that line because there's three centers that could do it. I think it just depends on who feels better about taking draws. It might be Spezza because Spezza's better at taking draws. But you basically have three guys that can play any of the positions across the forward unit
okay,
there.
so-
And I think that line's a pain in the ass to play against because Kerfoot can skate, Spezza can play both sides, and Foligno's just a pain in the ass.
It'd be interesting to see if the Leafs just want to throw out a bitch ass third line to play against in terms of you
like
throw out Foligno, Simmons, and Hyman, and you
Yeah.
just like go be
Yeah.
dicks.
Yeah,
On the
I think
entire
that's
night.
probably the better play. No, I forgot
I like
about
that.
Hyman for a second there. I think
Honestly,
Hyman probably fits in your third with Foligno and probably Simmons. I think
There's no-
Foligno
there-
just centers it,
Yeah,
and then
there's no perfect third line right wing on this team.
no. As of right now, I think the bottom two lines are so fluid, even with like Jumbo
Doesn't
in that
matter.
mix.
Yeah.
Like I don't think it really matters how you throw it together. You just got to find something that works. But personally, the top six are locked in my eyes. I don't think Sheldon Keefe sees it this way. I don't think Robertson probably sits sits in this lineup once everybody's back. But personally, the way it's looked so far, I think that's got to be your top six.
If you're Robertson, you're basically fighting for your future, at least in the playoffs.
Yep.
This year,
Yeah.
Yep.
right now, Well,
He's
like,
got
you
to
have
he's
see
got to
the last-
shine to try and get that final spot.
he's got to at least score
because
one. Like
if
he's
he
had
fills the third
chances.
line, he could fill the third line right wing role. Like he legitimately could.
It's not where you
if-
want
if-
him,
But
Yeah.
but he could.
But you know what I mean. Like
Yeah.
upside wise in the playoffs, like his upside is huge.
Huge.
Like he could be the captain of like he look at how many big goals Kapanen scored for us in the playoffs. Legitimately, like a ton.
That one
If-
where Boyle
if
passed
you
it to him
get-
from behind the net.
And then the Tuukka Rask one in Game 7 that
Yeah.
God forbid, like
Guy can play.
Happen, but
Guy
yeah.
could play. It could be the same idea. Now, all of this is great, but none of this matters unless they get this fucking power play figured out.
Yeah.
Nothing matters unless the top six doesn't perform. But the power
Sure.
play hasn't performed. The power
At
play
all.
performed for what? The first month of the
They were
season?
12th
And then that's
before this one for I think they're up to or 2 for 48, 46, whatever it is now. They were 12th in the league. And it's just like actually I think they're still 12th in the league. I think the number is. They're still currently 12th in the league. But they're like 2 for 46 and it's just like you watch the power play and everyone bitches about the drop pass. Like every team does that drop pass. It's not like the Leafs are the
ugly,
only one
though.
doing it. I don't
It's
like
ugly.
it. You watch teams that don't do the drop pass
mean
and
this-
it does not work at all.
You
Like
mean the
it's-
shitty
it's-
drop pass to Marner every time?
Yeah,
And then
like
Matthews? Yeah,
you
yeah.
got to
One of them.
change it up a bit on
And
your
the neutral-
entrances.
yeah.
The problem to me isn't zone entries. I don't care. Like, yeah, eventually you're going to get stopped on some zone entries. The problem is when they get it in their zone, it's fucking
nothing.
ugly.
They do nothing.
you need to get pucks in deep? Get them
No,
on
no, the
net?
power
Maybe
play. You
one.
get it in deep,
Maybe
you're just
one.
losing
The
possession.
problem is, who do they have that's going to go retrieve the puck on the first unit?
Well,
even if
Simmons,
you-
but he
even
doesn't
if
really
you
do
wanted
much.
to-
Yeah.
Even if you wanted to get the puck in deep, as Babcock would always say, they don't have anybody on that top line to do it anyway. So it's always going to
Well,
be
Austin Matthews,
let's
but
try
you
and
don't
gain
want
the
him being
zone
that guy.
mano-a-mano.
The problem to me is you sit there and you look at how they set up the power play in the zone, and fucking Austin Matthews is standing in the center of the ice. Austin Matthews' shot is equivalent to what Alex Ovechkin brings to the Capitals. Why the hell is he not on his one-timer side just getting fed constantly? There's no reason that Austin Matthews shouldn't be taking 4 to 5 shots of power play, especially now where nothing's working. Like, if he takes 5 shots, he might hit 4 shin pads, but that 5th one's going in the net.
Name a more predictable power play in the league than the Washington Capitals, and it still works.
It's
still
still
works.
crazy
Still
successful every single
adapt
year.
that. I don't even care how. Adapt
No.
it.
Yeah. It's not even
You have to
hard.
play to your strength. You
You
to
have
play to your
so
strength.
many guys that can pass the puck
You know,
and
no, no, no,
one
no,
that can
no, no.
shoot.
No. You know what the equivalent to the Washington Capitals power play for the Leafs would be Marner feeding Matthews pucks. That's all you have to do. That is literally all you have to do.
Backstrom to Ovechkin. Who'd have thought?
Yep.
Yeah, like what?
Riley to Matthews. Carlson to Ovechkin. Who'd have thought?
Exactly.
Same
It's
combination.
like,
I don't understand
literally
it.
the
Marner should be in the bumper slot because he can't shoot, and they keep pretending that he's a shooter, and it's
It's
embarrassing.
a muffin. It's
You
a
should
muffin, bro.
have Nylander on that offside in case you need to bail out, but you should have Marner in the middle, Riley up top, Matthews in his one-timer side, and I don't give a shit who's in front of the net. It shouldn't be Tavares.
Tavares.
It
I
shouldn't
mean-
be Tavares because like that's not a guy you
Does he-
want in there in case he gets hit. Like it just doesn't make sense
Fair.
to have. But like anybody, just put anybody in that spot, and you're fine. But just feed Matthews the puck and let him shoot. Like who cares if they don't score? Like if they go 1 for 50, it's the same thing as you're doing now. Like it's ridiculous. Bo's a monster.
Yeah. What else do we have to talk about?
I think that's it from the
Yeah,
Leafs.
for the Leafs.
Yeah,
All right.
they play tonight.
I
against
think the
Vancouver.
last
They
thing
do.
before we do hop off
okay.
was the Hyman injury.
Right.
Like that is a huge
Yeah, we're not
break.
done.
It's a
'Cause
significant.
honestly, when it
We're not
happened,
done.
I thought his leg was toast.
Yeah. Yeah. It could have been so much
It
worse. I think
looked
you're
very
real lucky
severe.
that it's only what it is, and it's only potentially 2 weeks. What did you guys think of the suspension?
He got 5 in a game,
Mhm.
deservedly.
Yep.
I think
Do you think the two after
games,
were
3 games
fair?
would have been fair. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
They gave him 2.
the
I'm
news.
fine with 2.
The news broke before the suspension news broke before the injury broke. So I
Yeah.
mean, regardless, there's no way that you can, like, let's say he ends up missing 4 to 6 months with an ACL injury.
Right.
Then everybody's up in arms because, oh, how come you only got 2 games?
Mhm.
So I mean, at the end of the day, like, because the news broke when it did, 2 games was always going to be the right number. And I mean,
Yep.
lucky that he's only missing a minimum of 2 weeks, that he's going to be back for playoffs. Like, again, I'm not mad at it.
No,
So-
I think there's precedent for this, and I think the 2 games was reasonable for what it was. Like Alex Edler's not a dirty hockey player. He's thrown some dumb hits in his career, but
It's
like
a
he's not a
dirty play.
dirty.
I just saw it.
It's
for
a
the
dirty
first time.
play.
It's
I think it's a
dirty play.
lazy play
It's a desperate,
more than
dirty
Agreed.
play.
it's not. It's a dirty play, but it's not a dirty
It's a
player.
dirty,
I think it was
it's
just
a
a
dirty,
Yeah, there's a
lazy play.
difference.
yeah.
It's a-
I think it was
because
just
there was-
lazy.
He was on a
There was
2-minute,
ample-
3-minute shift. Like, he
3
was
minutes.
dog
That was
tired.
insane.
And he literally, you just saw it. He deliberately stuck his leg out. Whether
Yeah,
there
right,
was intent
exactly.
to injure,
He tried to
there was
stop
an
Hyman with his
intent
leg.
to stop him,
Yeah.
which is good enough for me to get him the 2 games.
It's a suspendable play. I don't think it should have been any more than 2. Like I'm not
No.
in outrage going, oh, it should have been 5 to 10. Like no, that's
No,
just
right.
plain out wrong.
no, it's
Like it was a
it's-
2-game suspension.
right
He's not a
move.
dirty player. It was a bad play that caused by laziness, and that it is what it is. Like Hyman will be back in 2 to 3 weeks, maybe.
Can we play a game? Can we play a game?
Sure.
How many games does Tom Wilson get if he does that?
No,
McDavid doesn't even get a fine, so you can play both sides of that. It's
Seven?
that's 15 for Tom.
I mean, to be fair, Edler got 2.5 because he did miss the.
You did miss
end
most of that game, yeah.
So
Yeah, I don't know.
10.
It's fine. Now I want to talk about that game a little before we move on to.
Go for it.
I saw people talking about how it was like the most embarrassing loss since we lost to a Zamboni
Oh,
driver, and they're comparing it to that. I don't
we got
like.
goalied.
I was gonna say, as a Leaf fan, I don't feel embarrassed by that game at all. They dominated them. Like it wasn't like we lost to the Canucks roster, who's been in COVID for so long, and they just came and kicked the shit out of us. Like no, we dominated them that entire game. And Braden Holtby decided he was gonna be Caps Braden Holtby again, and just put on this performance of his life. Like I'm not embarrassed by that loss. They outplayed them. They should have won that game. But Braden Holtby decided otherwise, and Jack Campbell said give him a chance. So, like, if you're comparing it to the David Ayers game, like it's not even close.
Not even close.
Not even close.
It's not even close to the
comparing it-
Ottawa game. Like that Ottawa 5-1 game was way more embarrassing than what
Way
this one
worse.
was.
Way worse.
Like they blew a 2-goal lead with 2 periods. Like they were up 2-0 after the first, and then just blew it from there on, and had like 9 or 10 good scoring chances the rest of the game. It just, I don't understand where people are getting
Maybe
that.
we're conditioned as Leafs fans to be let down, but like on the scale of
That was not up
That was
there.
like a 3. That was like a 2, 3.
exactly.
Compared to, like,
Exactly.
I think
It's
the
a-
thing
it's a-
was, it
it's a
wasn't
bad
like
loss. It's a
it
bad
wasn't
loss.
Leaf
Oh, well.
fans that were saying like, "Oh, this is such an embarrassing
It's-
loss." It
it
was
was
everybody
me.
else, and you're
Literally
like,
everybody else. Yeah.
"Why?
Sure.
It always is.
How?"
It always is.
Good for the Canucks, I guess. I don't know. Like what do you
We'll
want us to
admit
say?
when we fuck up royally and we
Sure.
embarrass ourselves. Like
Sure.
I'm pretty confident in saying like we're good with that. Like we are the first ones to say, "Yo, we fucked
We
up
can
hard.
be
We looked
self-deprecating.
real bad."
Correct. Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly.
We blew that series to the Blue Jackets last year. That was embarrassing.
Absolutely.
We lost to a Zamboni driver last year. That was embarrassing.
Embarrassing.
We
Ottawa
lost
this
to
year.
Ottawa after getting up 5-1 this year. That was
5-1.
embarrassing.
Yeah.
We blew a 4-1 lead to Boston in Game 7. That was embarrassing. I'm not
Like,
embarrassed
we've
by a
got-
random loss to fucking Braden Holtby. Like, who
No.
cares?
Because they were coming off of COVID. So what?
Yeah, like, the team was. Holtby didn't even have COVID. He's been healthy the whole time. Like, Holtby's fine. And that's the only reason we lost that game. And, like, the only guys that scored was Bo Horvat and Niels Hoglander. Hoglander had COVID, sure. Horvat's been fine the whole time, too. He didn't have COVID.
It's a good story. Congrats to the
Yeah.
Canucks. They won.
Yeah.
a game. They
Man.
That's a great story.
It's
They
more
should
of
feel happy.
like
Stop
it's more
talking
of
about the
a
Leafs,
this
guys.
is a great thing for the Canucks.
Yeah.
Like, this is
I am
not anything against
so
the Leafs. This is just,
happy they got
great on
2
the Canucks
points.
for coming out and winning a game.
There's 2 teams that can catch the Canadians right now. It's the Canucks and the Flames. If we lose in overtime to both those teams the rest of the year, I'm pumped because we still got a point and we let them catch the Canadians. It's great. Like, who cares that we lose to the Canucks? Like, Jesus. I'd rather play them in the playoffs than the Habs. Jake Allen's going to steal every single game in the playoffs. So,
Yep. What do you want to talk about next? Do you want to talk about the Super League? Because that I don't
do.
understand it
Yeah.
at all.
This is it's been a fucked up couple days because honestly, this is a year or 2 worth of planning because
Really?
like the idea of this Super League was definitely something that's been made mention before.
Huh.
I believe
So-
it was the night of the 18th, so 2 days ago was the
Can we ask you questions
announcement of
before you explain?
Yeah.
it? Totally.
yeah.
so-
Go for it.
Was this Super League intended to replace like the Premier League and stuff like that,
No,
or is
no,
it
no.
is it just a like little tournament kind of?
it was
thing?
like another Champions League, basically, from
Okay,
what
so
I'm
It was
it's
to
just a little
it was basically
tourney
to compete.
of
It was
the
to
elite
compete with the
teams.
Champions League. It was to
Okay.
compete with the Champions League.
And what does the
to
Champions League consist of?
the winners of all the
So the
little their own
Champions
leagues.
League is the 32 teams in Europe
Mhm.
that is all across Europe. So it has 4 it consists of 4 teams from Italy, 4 from Spain, 4 from England, 4 from Germany, like and it includes like whatever teams from Romania, like the best team from
Okay,
some of the
gotcha.
smaller countries.
Right.
And so basically what they did was like all the big boys in the 3 big leagues, so Italy, Spain, and England 2 days ago went out and said, hey, so the teams were Manchester City, Man United, Liverpool, Chelsea, Tottenham, Arsenal. So the 6 English
All the teams that you and I would know were the teams that decided
Yeah.
they were going to jump into this other thing.
Right,
yeah, like all the
exactly.
ones that have the
Clout.
biggest
That are good.
reputation possible.
The clout
Yeah.
teams, basically.
Right.
And whether or not they were good either, right? Like
Yeah,
everybody's
just the
laughing
big
at Arsenal's
name
team.
They
team.
have
because they've
stature.
been
They have
irrelevant.
stature. Correct. Right. Right.
Yes. So it's all reputation. So all these reputation teams, and then the rest of them were Atletico and Real Madrid, Barca, Juve, Milan, and Inter. So those 12 teams were going to conduct a exclusive tournament, and basically they were going to have anybody else who wanted to join.
Yeah, they were
Just for the
going
sake
up
of trying
to.
to
so
get
what's
at
that?
UEFA.
It was 25 teams, right, or 22 teams that they wanted
So
to
they
get
Would
this
have
thing
been
up to.
up to their idea was 20. They had
20?
12 of them.
So they couldn't compete
And
in
they
both
will
the
have
Champions League
2 groups
and the
then.
Super League, correct? They couldn't compete in both.
That is where FIFA, UEFA put their foot down.
So they
UEFA
could have,
is the
in theory, they
European
could have,
governing body.
but UEFA decided that they don't want anything to
could've,
do with this.
But UEFA
fucking...
said not a fucking chance.
Now,
Yeah, they said not a fucking chance.
I'm not a soccer fan, obviously, and I don't really follow much of it. But as like a sports fan in general, does this Super League not make way more sense? Like, do you not want to
Okay.
see some of the
Now,
biggest
this
teams
is-
go in a tournament together?
Okay. Now this is the thing, because this is where it comes down to: are you a casual fan or are
Right.
you a passionate soccer? Because even
Right.
myself, I follow the game religiously, but I
Yeah.
cannot
Right.
say that I am a passionate fan of the game.
Right.
I'm not there
You're not.
heckling the crowd.
Yeah.
Showing
You're not
up game after
purebred
game
European
in
where you're
England.
still over there and doing stupid shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, again, like I've cited on the podcast numerous times,
Mm-hmm.
Europeans are a different breed.
Ridiculous.
And it,
Right.
it branches out into how they treat people of color. Like, they are just
Right,
a
right, right.
complete
They're bad.
different breed.
Yeah.
And like, to that point, like, they are just a different breed in the sense that they live and breathe soccer. So
Mhm.
you take away, like, you could play Liverpool, for example.
Sure.
You could take their games from Everton away, who again, they're not huge teams, but like, their rivalry games are that much more important than going up against
Right.
a big name team like Barcelona. They would much
Right.
rather go and play, like Tottenham and Arsenal are a very, very big rivalry. If they were separated, the fans of that team would be fucking livid that we don't get to go and play our rival. Fuck that.
Right.
I don't even want to cheer for Arsenal anymore.
Right.
People
But-
were rioting in the streets. They were
so
on
stupid.
edge,
It's so stupid.
crowding the stadium, saying we do not want the breakaway from the
But-
EPL.
From what I understand, though, it wasn't like the initial idea wasn't to just take away from other games. It was to put more games into it and just like play these games on the side against other big name teams, right? Like they weren't going to just leave their own leagues and start this other league, right?
From what I take, like, it looks like they would not be welcome.
But like,
Like,
if
whether it was supposed to be just its
Yeah.
own separate tournament to replace the Champions League,
Right.
UEFA had cracked down on it right away and said,
Yeah.
if you want out,
so this is
you're
more on
out,
UEFA
out.
then, because like to me it seemed like these guys wanted to have a separate tournament, which I think was a way cooler idea to put like the biggest teams in the sport
Yeah.
in this tournament, as opposed to the Champions League, where I know it's prestigious and like fans love it, but like there's so many teams in that fucking suck. Like they don't
Correct.
deserve to be there.
And now,
So you put
again,
all
like,
the
I've had numerous discussions about this with my brother. So
Yeah.
now to equate this to some sort, and to provide an analogy that he provided me,
Mhm.
imagine the NHL where basically the Leafs and the Habs go to the NHL and say,
right.
from now on, either we're going to leave or you put us in the playoffs every year because you know that we're going to sell out.
Right.
How fair is that?
Okay. But the way I saw this thing was just like after the seasons are done, you just took like what the Champions League is right now is like you just take
Yeah.
like the KHL and the NHL and the Dell and the Swiss League and the
Yeah.
Sweden leagues and you put them all in a tournament and you just let the NHL teams clean up is kind of what it would be.
Is what
So,
that's
like,
essentially what the
Is what the Champions League is right now. So the Super
Now
League
the
to me
Super
was kind of
League is
just like
the
we're
top
just
12
going to
teams
take
of the NHL.
yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Like,
now, don't get me
like-
wrong. In terms of quality of the sport, that would be
Made way
soccer's
more
big-
sense.
It would be
Yeah.
the best soccer you'd ever see in the world.
Right.
But that you can't compete. The whole point of it is that FIFA and UEFA have such a stranglehold. They are what
embarrassing.
soccer is, whether you like it or not. And again, like I hate FIFA and UEFA, their guts.
It's the
because
worst business.
They are the two most corrupt organizations in the entire world.
Yeah.
You can say whatever you want about whatever organization you don't like. You don't like the UN? Perfect. Doesn't matter because FIFA's that much more worse.
Yeah.
I'm telling you.
Fuck Brexit.
I wasn't expecting that.
I'm telling you, FIFA
FIFA's
is
trash.
brutal.
No, I agree.
You remember
I agree.
Greg
What was
Kelly's,
it?
Right,
Greg
right.
Kelly's
Renee
costume in year 4?
Fasali Fessel, whatever the fuck that dickhead was.
What
I
that,
about
did
the
my
like-
Olympic
thing on
Committee?
why they are corrupt.
Honestly, I
did
think FIFA's worse than
year
the
4
IOC.
paper on-
Really?
Yeah.
on thing.
Like they've
Oh,
been
yeah,
like
like, FIFA's
proven worse.
terrible.
Like they're
No, don't even bring up the IOC.
Yeah.
It's not even close.
yeah.
It's not even
Like,
close.
it's-
We are playing a World Cup in Qatar, and we have to play it in November.
Yeah, I know there's
Nothing
lots of
against
beef
Qatar.
with like
Nothing
FIFA
against
and
Qatar. Okay, like
or,
nothing against
like,
Qatar, but like
UEFA and
it is not a place that is fit to host the World Cup in the
bad.
summer. In its
They're
true
pretty,
natural
they're
state,
pretty
you play it in the summer, and it is not fit to do that because it is so unsafe, and they had no business being there as a host nation.
it's bad. They don't do a very good job. I know that.
So the whole
I know
thing
that.
is that
But I just don't understand this. Like, why are we not having this really cool big ass tournament featuring every big name team?
because it would ruin the sport entirely from top.
But
to bottom.
how?
Okay, but
because UEFA and FIFA would not stand to have these
Sure,
teams
but that's their
go
fault.
off from.
That's their own fault. Like, I don't understand why, like, you want to have this power trip where it's just like, no, you be in our league or you don't be a part of anything. Because, like, they were threatening, like, you can't play in the World Cup or you can't play in the Olympics. You
whole
can't
thing
play
is
in the
that
Euro.
UEFA rewards the teams that qualify for the Champions League. Like, there is
Right.
cash incentive to qualifying for the Champions League. You progress.
Yeah.
You make fourth in the Champions League. You make it to the final. You get paid out accordingly.
Right. But they weren't saying they weren't going to play in the Champions League, were they? I thought this was, like, on the side of it. Like, they were also going to do this Super League thing.
Well, the whole thing is that they wanted to guarantee their spots in the Champions League. Otherwise, we're making our own. So it was either take us in every year, regardless of whether we deserve it or not. Otherwise,
Right.
we're going to call it our own. So it was
Okay.
basically a take it or leave it. And UEFA's like, fuck that.
I think
No.
this should be something that UEFA does themselves. I don't understand why you don't do this. It's just, I
The
don't know.
thing is because it doesn't then, include
The fans
all the
just
other
get
teams.
angry. I don't know. They're just,
Again, like you're talking about, like
they
the
sound like
DEL
children
and the
more.
Swedish
Is
league,
what this sounds like. It sounds like kids fighting
That's-
over toys. Like, oh, we want some too. Like, fuck off.
It is. Yeah, it's just a big power
embarrassing.
trip of who gets the money, who gets the cash. UEFA and FIFA are the two most corrupt organizations in the world.
Right.
So at the end of the day, you're not going to beat them. You could say you could be whoever you want. And
Right.
the whole thing was that these 12 teams, in their benching off, they were going to be given like a $3 billion grant from the JP Morgan Bank
Jesus.
that would then provide them just free funds for the sake of going out there and breaking off from the money UEFA would have given them. So there was incentive for them to leave and break off from UEFA.
Right.
Okay, we're getting our own money, so we can do this on our own. Which is why UEFA said, no, you can't do both the Champions League and this. Pick one. You want the money from JP Morgan? Okay, do it, but you're not with us anymore.
So
Just pick a side.
circled all the way around. It's basically UEFA's fault that the fans are pissed off. Because, like, if they just ran this as a separate thing, I think the fans should enjoy this. No, like, I know I'm
right?
not
Like,
a,
more,
thing is you
more
can't have
soccer.
it as a separate
Oh no, right? Like what?
like
The
that-
only thing is that because then it takes away of what the Champions League is.
who cares?
Champions League for
Well,
centuries,
it would
for,
be like
for decades, has been the most prestigious tournament in all of European soccer, and now you're just going to throw it away at the.
Right, it would be
'cause then
like if you took
what's going to hold true
away-
value?
It would be like if you created another Olympics or another World Cup,
Yeah.
and you're
Featuring
like,
just like the North
Another
American
Stanley
countries.
Cup. Okay, now this is
Exactly.
going to. You have the Stanley
Exactly.
Cup that features 16 teams, but now we're only going to.
It's almost like you just created a Euro.
It's like exactly. It's like if the NBA did the midseason.
It's almost like
tournament that they were
soccer
talking about.
already did this.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
like
but-
I don't know, man. I don't get
But
it.
that's the thing,
I
like-
don't understand the backlash, but I get that I'm not involved the way some of these idiots
Right.
over in Europe are. But like
Mm-hmm.
the fact that they got so worked up about this blows my mind as just like a sports fan in general because this just seems really cool. Like it seems like a great idea, but apparently it's
On the
just
surface,
not the
I've
same.
watched
on the
it?
surface,
Would I
it
watch
No,
it?
God, no. So I guess it doesn't matter that I think it's
No,
cool. The
in
guy,
the
the
end,
people that are
it's
actually going to watch it
like,
aren't
we're
going to
not
watch
gonna
it.
watch
So yeah, I guess it makes sense. I don't know. It just seems
Yeah.
really weird logically to me. But
We just did like 30 minutes on soccer that we'll never get. Like that's 30 minutes we'll never.
And like
get
the thing
back.
is, so just to like
But
in sum,
it's
the
interesting.
timeline of this. So this was 2 days ago. The idea, yeah, we're gonna create the Super League,
Mm-hmm.
and right off the top, my brother's like, "Yo, this is gonna ruin soccer." I'm like, "I know, but it's not gonna happen." He's like, "What do you mean it's not gonna happen? They have a website, they have everything." I'm like, "It's
fucking-
not happening."
They have a
FIFA and
stronghold.
UEFA stand way too much to lose if these teams leave. It is not happening. He's like,
did we even talk about the teams that they pulled out? Did we even bring
so,
that up?
Yeah,
They're
now
all
in
pulling
some.
out at this point.
two days later, here we are. Manchester United, Man City, Liverpool,
Chelsea?
Chelsea, Tottenham, Arsenal. All 6 English teams out.
Back.
They pulled out.
Yeah.
Real Madrid, Juventus, Inter have all not said a word. AC Milan, Barcelona, and Atletico Madrid are in works of finalizing their way out. So it's going to fall apart. It's already in shambles.
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned, it's not happening. So it was a fun
I think this would have been
idea.
great just because, like, if you look at the guys that are in this league, like, you're telling
Right.
me that
elite
Ronaldo
of the
and
elite.
Messi can't play
But
in
they
the
would-
next World Cup?
Right.
That's what you're gonna strong arm right now? Is that you're gonna take some of the biggest players in the sport and lessen your own tournament? Like that's so stupid. I think they should have just like held strong and went with this. Like what are you gonna do?
Again,
You're gonna cut your
No,
own
it wasn't
profits
the
in
players'
half?
Decision. You got to understand, this was not the player's decision.
No.
This was the
pull out,
owner's
yeah.
decision. And the owners did this against the players.
Yeah, you're right.
They did it against the management of the teams. And all the managers are like, well, what do you mean? Like, we love soccer.
Mm-hmm.
Soccer in Europe, you got to understand, it has always been for the people. Like,
Sure.
the most biggest rivalry games in the world, you can go and watch for like $100, 120 pounds there.
Mm-hmm.
You can't tell me how much you're going to go and pay to go watch a Leafs Habs game front row in ACC, Scotiabank Arena.
I'm not personally, but
And that's
there's
what I mean.
definitely
Like,
people that would pay
soccer
hundreds
in
of
Europe has
thousands of
always been
dollars.
for the people. It's always been the people's game, accessible to everyone. And you take that away and you basically call the Super League like the NHL and you make
Right.
it Americanized where you're showing the best product. TV rights are going to be through the roof.
Yeah.
To go and watch those games, it's going to be through the roof. So it drives out what the whole purpose of what soccer's been from the beginning,
Okay.
which is why
I
everybody's
guess.
up in arms.
I guess.
So it's all been a culture thing,
But hey, let's not mention the fact that soccer pays everybody more than any other sport combined. So
rightfully so.
whatever. It's not about the money over there, right?
But again, like this has
Weird.
been
It's just a
two-day
weird
turn.
situation, and I don't
It's been
understand
a
it. As
2-day
non-soccer.
turn, and like I was telling my brother right from the start, I'm like, this is a bluff. They're not going through with it. He's like, you're full of shit. I'm like, how much you want to bet?
Yeah.
And my mom's like, don't, because she heard us. Like we were yelling at the top of our lungs, going back and forth, bickering about what the hell is this Super League? What's going to happen to the sport? And I'm like, it's not happening. Trust me. And here we are a day later.
wish it
Everybody's pulling out. I'm laughing.
I wish it happened. I wish it happened. That would have been
Dude,
great.
like for a year, and if they could all agree to it for like 1 year just to see what would happen, that would be pretty entertaining.
Mhm.
Like, because you
Right.
never see, like, aside from like the
Try
Champions
it.
League,
Like it's the version of the what the
again,
NHL
like
do,
everybody's so
the
classic
World
and
Cup
so
or whatever.
traditionalist in Europe that you'll never get the vote.
Right.
So
I'd just like to say this story, like, I don't follow soccer in the slightest. And I am a fan of combat sports, but I found myself talking about soccer this week more than I talked about the Jake Paul fight. I think that says something here.
this is probably
How
the
so?
biggest
What
news.
do you think it says? The poll of soccer or
That, like, I think the soccer in general, just like, it was more interesting this week than that stupid ass, whatever you want to call that thing that happened on Saturday night. Because that wasn't a fight. I'm not going to call it
That
a
stunt?
fight.
No.
What are we gonna call it? We're gonna call it a stunt because that
An
was
acting,
what it was to me.
a TV
Yeah.
show? We can call it a TV show.
an exhibition? Is it even an exhibition?
I don't even think it was.
It
I
was
think
an
it was just
exhibit. Yeah,
it
it
was a
was an
TV show.
exhibit
It was a
of-
way for Ben Askren to make money.
It was a
It
reality
was a
TV
mockery.
show.
It was a
reality
mockery
TV
of
show.
boxing. It was a mockery of boxing.
Now, I respect both sides here. I respect Jake Paul because he put a UFC fighter under his belt. Now, you and I, Amir, we both know that Ben Askren cannot fight. He's not. He's not a good
How long
fighter.
has he
He's a
been out of
wrestler.
the
He's a
game?
great wrestler, but
He's a
he's not a
grappler.
good.
He's been out of
He's
the
not a
game.
good boxer.
Uh-huh.
And you and I know that.
Yeah.
But like the
Did I not-
Fairweather fans, yeah. Oh, I think we both said the same thing. The Fairweather fans are gonna be like, "Oh, he beat a UFC fighter." Like the
Yeah,
ones that aren't that invested in this are gonna be like, "Well, a little bit of respect to the guy. He beat a UFC fighter." So he got that bit of respect under him. But now the people like you and I are gonna look at the situation and be like, "Oh, he didn't fight anyone," but we're still talking about him.
Oh,
And
yeah.
Jake
He
Jake
won.
Paul's
He
name
won.
is still
He
on
won.
my tongue.
Yeah.
So he's making millions off of this fight to
He
just
won.
yeah.
He
He's
won.
being
Apparently
everybody.
There was like over
I don't
a
even care.
million
He's not a good boxer. Who
pay-per-views
cares
sold.
about
Yeah.
that? He's winning.
He won
He's-
in
he's
every
winning.
respect to this. Whether or not you agree of the
He-
degree of difficulty he had to face, like he's gone from what another YouTuber to a retired basketball player to now. How long
Soccer-
has Ben Askren been out of the
His
sport?
first fight wasn't even a YouTuber. It was a soccer player. It's like some D3 soccer player or something like that. It wasn't even a YouTuber.
No, wasn't
but,
it KSI?
No, KSI fought Logan.
Oh, it was Logan.
Jake
Okay.
Jake fought this like random soccer player guy. But yeah, on the other side of things, Ben Askren did exactly what he should have done. Why
Guys,
would you
both
say
got
no
the
to that
bag.
fight if you're Ben Askren? Your
Yeah.
career's
They both
done.
got the- They both got
Yeah.
the bag.
You got paid. I think it was over $1 million. It was the most money he's ever made from
It
a
was
fight.
500,000. I thought it was 500.
Yeah, I heard it was
Really? I heard it was over $1 million.
at least at like the starting.
at the minimum
Maybe it was
500 K, and then
Yeah.
690,000 to Jake
He-
Paul.
regardless of what the number is, he got more money than he's ever made to just take a couple punches and take a dive and get out of there within 2 minutes. Like, brilliant, man. If
Ben
Jake Paul
Askren-
came to me tomorrow and said, "Hey, come let me kick your ass for 500 grand," I'd be there in a heartbeat. Go
Yeah,
ahead,
do it
dude. Hit me
then.
as hard as you want. I'm going to take a dive on the first shot.
Just make sure it's on the chin, not on the temple, okay? And then we got
Yeah.
ourselves a deal.
Yeah.
Just
So-
square me up. I don't care if I get knocked out or not. I'm going down. Give me that bank. Why not?
Here is my thing with the whole fight.
Mm-hmm.
Good for Jake. Good for Ben. Y'all got the bag. You got the reputation you wanted. Ben Askren can deal with. Ben Askren decided I can deal with the repercussions of having
already an
the
embarrassment.
The two worst losses ever
In fighting history,
life.
yes. Yeah.
In life,
Yeah.
he has to deal with, and he decided the money's worth it. So good for him. That's
Ben
like-
Askren was already an embarrassment in like UFC
UFC,
lore.
yeah.
So like I don't think he cared that he gets knocked out by a YouTuber. Like who gives a fuck? Actual UFC fans aren't like, yeah, he's probably going to go out here and win. Like, he's going to lose. He can't box. But like, man, the thing for me is like I've seen so many people be like, oh, I want to see Jake fight so-and-so next. I don't want to see Jake Paul fight another fight. I do not give one single shit about what this kid does. But for some reason, reason people pay for this pay-per-view.
Oh, I'm not paying.
Yeah, I knew a couple people.
Well, I don't
that
even
did.
pay for the UFC. Why am I paying for this trash?
Hey,
Yeah.
we pay for the UFC.
And that's the thing.
Oh,
Like
yeah,
over
yeah,
a million people
Okay.
paid for the pay-per-view. So over 50 million in fucking just
Revenue
the
from that.
fucking revenue from TV deal, let alone what'll come now from him winning another one.
I heard people too that were like, "Oh, the fight's probably gonna suck," but like the performers and stuff, it's like, come on, man.
Justin Bieber was the best part.
Yeah, that was it.
Black
was.
Keys were pretty good. Yeah, Justin
Were
Bieber
they?
was great.
I didn't
The Black
watch. I
Keys were
watched
pretty good.
the end of Bieber, and then the 2 minutes of that fight, and like I was like, maybe I'll get into this, and then I saw Jake Paul walk out with that big ass robot thing behind him. And I'm like, dude, you're
He
embarrassing.
had some fucking flashy ass trunks. What were those? Like they had
My-
like padding on the sides. Looked like
My-
SpongeBob SquarePants.
My favorite thing to come out of the whole night was Pete Davidson. It was nothing to do with the fight. It was Pete Davidson ripping apart the fight.
Pete Davidson and
great.
Ric Flair
I love Pete
commentating the slap fight.
Slapping
That was
contest?
probably one of the better moments too.
Yeah, I love
Pete Davidson when they cut to him before his interviews and he goes, "Yeah, you know how legitimate this
I don't
thing
know
is
anything
because
about
they've got me hosting it."
Have you guys seen the King of Staten Island? His movie?
No,
Really
not
good.
yet.
Really good. Yeah,
That's
I recommend it.
It's just
Um,
embarrassing.
okay,
Stop
so the
stop
thing with
buying Jake
Paul-
Paul's fight.
If anyone that's saying the fight wasn't rigged, watch Ben Askren versus Robbie Lawler. Robbie Lawler, who is a former UFC champion, he is feeding
And a-
punches
Yeah.
to the head of Ben Askren.
Robbie Lawler's a
Absolutely
striker. Like
dominating.
he's not.
Yeah, and he
he's
ends
not a
up,
wrestler.
and Ben Askren ends up submitting it, or well, he ends up
He won that one.
passing out. He did. Ben Askren won the fight.
Yeah.
Even though it was controversially, but the amount of hits that he took, and you're telling me one little jab from little old Jake Paul's gonna knock him out? Relax.
It wasn't even a solid shot.
No.
Like it was a straight right.
It was a good hit. It was a good hit, but
It's
like
not. It's not
okay,
a
really?
knock you
These
down
guys
in the
played in
first
the
round
UFC.
type of hit. It was like the fourth punch he took. Ben Askren started that fight out all right. He dodged like 4 hooks that Jake just looked out of sync and like he was just swinging and Ben's like nope. Like he looked like a professional fighter, and then he just let Jake hit him with a straight right and he just went down. Like, I don't know.
put Ryan Garcia in the ring with him. He doesn't deserve it, but put Ryan Garcia in the
put
ring, and
nobody
then
in
we'll
the
see
ring
where
with him.
Jake Paul belongs.
Put nobody in the ring. I don't care about feeding this kid's ego to make him feel like he's
Wait,
tough.
Like,
I don't care.
a nice shot in his ego.
I don't
Right,
know.
so
I don't
we-
even care, man. Like we're just feeding his ego more. Like
Oh, 100%.
even if he loses, like he's like, well, I still fought. It's like who fucking cares? I don't want to see this guy fight anymore.
I was gonna
Problem
say
is, they still keep coming back for more.
since Tyron Woodley is basically done with the UFC, I was just like, let him fight Jake Paul. But then I'm like, Tyron
No.
Woodley would definitely take a fall to then get
Yeah.
paid more.
Are you kidding me? Yeah. Anyone that's retired in the UFC now is gonna be like, yeah, I'll fight Jake Paul. Make some money before I go out. Not even take 2 punches and go down. Why not? Like
Yeah.
it's I Conor McGregor's been an absolute piece of shit lately, and a lot of what he's done, I have no defense for him. But I respect the hell out of him just like completely ignoring the fact that Jake Paul exists. Because why should Jake Paul be on his radar? Like Conor McGregor worked for so long to get to where he is. Same with anyone. Like if Jake Paul went at Khabib or he went at John Jones or any of those guys in the top there, they have zero reason to even think about that kid other than the paycheck. Like it's just
Money talks,
go
though.
away. Like you don't need to feed
Unfortunately,
some
money
child.
talks.
Yeah, you don't need to feed some child's ego just to make him feel better about himself.
Correct.
No, but it's not his ego. It's the paycheck at the end of the day.
Yeah. Yeah. You get more if you win. though.
It's a money making scheme. That's all this was.
Yeah.
And they're now
You know,
bigger on
words.
social media. They're going to be better off.
Like I
for
never
this
heard
fight.
of Triller before this ever.
No.
I never
Before
heard
these
of
fights,
Fight Club before this ever. So like this puts them on the map.
it's a win.
I think my
Lopez
favorite
will take
thing-
any job.
Yeah, of course. Snoop Dogg's getting relevant by doing these things again. Like the guy hasn't
Yeah.
really done anything lately, and he's just like, I'll commentate.
Yeah.
My favorite part is watching Michael Buffer just do any part of this.
Oh,
Because you can tell he doesn't want to be there. He
Michael
looked
Buffer-
miserable. He looks
much is it that-
miserable.
That he gets paid for announcing it. Here, let me look it up.
He gets paid a shit ton to just
Yeah, it
show
was
up.
weird having the
places, so I'm assuming
TikTokers
it's
there
a
too
lot.
presenting the belts. That was weird.
But Michael Buffer's face,
Like
when
it
he's
was kind of like
announcing things,
yeah.
you can tell he hates it. He hates every second of this, but he's getting paid.
To
It
announce
was an ultimate like
the,
worlds
um,
collide.
To announce the 5 famous words,
Mm-hmm.
he earns between 25,000 and 100,000 every
It's
time.
so nuts. It's
Good
so
for
nuts.
him. Good for him.
It's so nuts. He doesn't even have to look like he wants to be there. He looked like he did not want any part of that. Said his words, probably got paid $100,000 and went home. Like,
Peace.
it's unreal. Like, I wish. I don't even like him as much as Bruce. I think Bruce is a better like
way better.
ring
Like,
announcer.
I feel
like
like when
significantly.
When Bruce does it, I'm like, how's this guy not had like 7 heart
Yeah.
attacks? At,
I know. Dude.
Right? Like,
Bruce loves it. He gets so into it.
Loves
And then there's Michael that's just like, ooh, let's get ready to rumble. And that's it.
Oh.
That's his whole night. There's no hype to introducing the fighters. It's just like, yeah, in this corner there's that guy. In this corner there's that guy. Okay, go fight. It's like, fuck. It's brutal.
all right. Did you guys hear about this Lakers story?
No.
You guys haven't heard about Vivian?
No.
No.
Get a load of this shit. This is why the NHL, NFL, MLB, and soccer they don't have fans like this. Okay.
Okay.
There was this fan on Lakers Twitter. Her name was Vivian.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
She had like 16,000 followers or something. Ends up, being a significant part in Lakers Twitter. Comes
Okay.
out that she has cancer. Okay.
Oh shit.
Right. And she's apparently talking to this guy
Okay.
on Twitter, and that they're gonna they were, I don't know if they were romantically involved. Apparently they were. She says she has cancer.
Right.
Comes out yesterday morning that she's missing. And there's these photos of her bald that she's going through cancer treatment. She's bald.
Right.
Okay. And then there's normal photos of her. Turns out the entire thing was a fucking hoax, and this girl doesn't exist.
Doesn't exist.
This dude is like photoshopping images of her.
Oh.
It's fucking insane. Let me
What
send
the
you-
So it's just been one big troll.
So this is like,
yes.
what's his name
Yeah.
there from the Chargers?
Yeah, Manti Te'o. Yes.
Manti
Here,
Te'o. This is basically a Manti Te'o on the entire world.
here, look at this. It's an entire catfishing thing. So yesterday, the guys that were involved from Lakers Twitter that this happened to, they end up going on, Twitter Voices? Like it's a version of like Clubhouse and
Right.
all these
that
different
like where people
apps.
just kind of get together
Exactly.
as like a group. Yeah.
So they're all speaking. Kevin Durant joins the spaces
No.
and he requests to talk. And KD's like, yo, spill the tea. I want to know what happens. And then so the guy that was going out with the girl or something
Right.
was trying to explain it. And Kevin's like, nah, man, you're saying you got played for a month? You got played by her for a month.
What?
Oh, man. This
So you
is
gotta
so hard
see
to
these photos.
process. But
You gotta see these photos, bro.
so this guy was just catfishing a fucking Lakers
Catfishing the shit
cancer.
out
Like, come
What
but
the
I mean, that's
fuck?
bad.
Who
Don't get me wrong, that's
thinks
so
of this?
bad.
of look at the
Who
photos.
wakes up in the morning and says, "This is what I want to do with my life"?
Look at the photos and tell me how it took this long for them to realize that this is Photoshop. So everyone was like last night on Twitter, everyone was like photoshopping themselves shittily onto photos, and I was dying because like look at so there's this one of
Put it in
her
the chat,
playing
put it in the group, put it in
basketball
the group.
overseas, and
Okay.
she photoshopped herself onto like this Asian chick. Like, it's legitimately unbelievable.
What? This is fucking weird. Oh, that one's really bad. The one
So
where she's
then,
just, like,
so
taking
then
a
listen.
selfie.
Today, some girl on the account tweets out a video of a piece of paper saying she's Vivian, and she spelled Vivian fucking wrong.
Oh my god.
This entire thing's just some giant catfishing thing.
Yeah,
It's
that
an
is-
episode of Catfish basically brought to life. It's
That basketball
insane.
one is hilarious.
Hilarious. You'll probably, if you look it up on Twitter, you'll see the original photos and then you'll see the Photoshop version.
Yeah, they have
So-
the basketball one. They had the original
Yeah.
one and then the photoshopped. Oh my god, that's so weird, man. I don't understand who thinks to do this.
So apparently this Josh guy
Right.
was in if you see in the article, apparently it's him or something. I'm not sure. I don't. And that if you look at his photo, look at how his hand is in to the dog's face,
Right.
and that's photoshopped. Even like, no one has any idea
That's
what
so
the fuck
weird.
is going on.
That is so weird, man.
It's
Some
it's
people
definitely something.
just like to watch the world burn, eh?
Right. So, how the fuck was she on a podcast? They used a voice changer this entire time that she was a co-host on a podcast.
She had a podcast?
Yes. Yes.
What the fuck?
So then
That's fucked
people
up.
were like, so this Josh guy is apparently it was apparently him. So you know the Paul Pierce holding two phones thing? They're like Josh and Vivian tweeting
Oh
out
my
stuff.
god.
Jesus Christ.
It was so bad.
That's brutal.
That's so weird.
Like I do some pretty fucked up shit on Photoshop with like friends and stuff, but like
Right.
I don't make that like my day job.
No. You're not even making anything out of this. It's not like
Yeah.
I'm highly doubting at 16,000 followers she can make money off of that. Or
So
he could
people
make,
are
or
like-
they could make. I don't know what we call this.
So people were like, "Shit, your girl that you created has more followers than you do."
Oof.
Because the guy's got like
Oof.
5,000 and the girl has 16.
That's crazy, man.
Oh, all right. Let's talk about the mid Raptors real quick. We the mid. Bro, I have no idea if they're fucking.
hate this.
I have
hate
no idea
this.
if they're tanking or not. I don't.
I don't either. I think they're trying, but the players aren't letting it happen.
No.
I think they're just throwing lineups
you
out there
think?
for fun. Like I think the organization is trying.
I
the
think
players
the
are like,
organization
no.
wants to tank, and then
Yeah,
the players just
the players are like, no. They're just throwing out like random names that you've never heard of, and they show up and bail out for 40. It's like, well, why? Just lose or
all
win.
I ask-
Don't
all I ask-
sit in the middle.
All I ask is play good basketball. I don't want to see you get blown out every game
No.
because it's awful and it's demoralizing. But like, just play well. I don't like when they win and they don't play well, like they did against OKC. That pissed me off. But it's extremely frustrating because like they're holding out guys for injury prevention because like I'm sure I guess, but it's more deliberate taking than anything. And the two times they've done that,
It's
they've
not
won the
working.
game.
I was gonna say it's not
They won
working.
the game.
Like,
So I don't know what to say. I really don't.
So we haven't recorded since the trade deadline, right?
Correct.
So we have kind of not. We've just missed the whole hype train on Gary Trent Jr.
Correct.
because that guy's sick.
Yeah.
I'm so here for that man.
Oh,
I hope
Raptors Twitter is very horny over him.
I hope he becomes the next Kyle Lowry because he's so much fun.
He
And
is-
he seems to already like the city that he's never been to, or at
Correct.
least never been to as an adult, which is
Right.
kind of cool. Like I really respect that move.
Mhm.
And he's just a lot of fun to watch, and he's good.
Yeah.
The guy can play.
He's got the swag too.
Yeah.
He's the coolest
the-
player we've had. He's the coolest player we've had since ever. That's
I
what
don't-
Because like Serge was cool, but like
wasn't
he
like
was.
that. If you ran
Yeah.
into Serge on the street, you're just like, that's just the random dude, random really tall
I mean,
dude. You
sure.
know he's in the NBA, but like he was like,
Right.
just a stylish dude. He didn't
Right.
have that like swagger that that Gary Trent has.
Mhm.
I'm also just like, I don't know if I'm a big fan of it, but like this thing he's got
The-
going on with his hair,
Yeah.
I don't know what to call it. It's
Braids.
a strange look. Yeah, but it's just like bang braids. Like,
I mean, like, so it covers his massive forehead. He's got a
Yeah.
massive forehead. So I was just like, if you see, there's this player on the Spurs, Derek White,
Mhm.
giant forehead also.
okay,
Gary does the best with his giant forehead and rocks the shit out of it,
he tries.
and then Derek White very does not.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
I like him.
The Gary
He's
Trent experience has been very
Unreal. As much as I
might-
liked Norm,
might-
I like
I
Gary
might have
Trent.
something coming out this week on yeah, we'll see.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we'll see.
All right.
Basketball, I think the Raptors still make the playoffs and I'll be frustrated.
They're
but,
gonna be in that play-in game. I hate it.
yeah,
Oh.
and then get bounced
And
and,
then
like I'm gonna get
anywhere.
emotionally invested for no reason. And
You know
No,
what?
it's
No,
tough.
what's gonna happen is they're gonna win round one for some reason, and then
Oh,
you're
yeah?
gonna
They're
get
gonna beat
real
Philly?
invested. Yeah, they're gonna do something stupid like that, and you're gonna get really invested, and then they're gonna get swept.
I mean, if they beat Philly, then like I don't care at that point. That's a
Yeah,
win
it
in
is.
itself. But
Getting Philly out
Yeah.
of the playoffs is just a win.
yeah.
But like,
We also haven't talked about baseball since it's been back. Jays are getting dummied right now.
yeah, it
It's
doesn't
not
look
fun.
great. And it's
not
Ryu
fun.
too.
Yeah, not a great outing from him.
Such a hot
Well,
start.
yeah.
Bo came out and has
Mhm.
been Bo now, and he's still continuing to be Bo.
Mhm.
And then everything
Yeah,
went to
bad
shit
defensively.
after that. Yeah, that was a terrible play.
How do we feel about this season's Blue Jays?
I'm not sure yet. I think they're good. I think they're going to be really good. There's way too many injuries for me to just like give up on this team.
It's crazy.
Everybody's hurt, and everybody's had such shit luck. Like even Teoscar with the COVID, and Lourdes with the vaccine that he
It's
had
a-
to
it's
miss
a-
games for.
It's a miracle that
They're close.
I
that
mean,
and also
the
that
Yankees
no one
aren't
else
doing
got.
well.
That no
The
one else got
Yankees was the
COVID.
first-
Yeah,
yeah, no one else got COVID. Like it's a
especially
miracle. The
because
Yankees-
it's Teoscar.
the Yankees. Were the worst team in the AL for the first time since '98. Like that's
Yeah, it's
nuts.
the
Worst start in franchise history, or something like that.
Crazy.
Um,
But yeah, like I don't know how to feel about this team because the pitching hasn't been.
it hasn't even been bad.
It hasn't been,
Like I trust Ryu when he's on the mound. I trust
Mhm.
Mats more than anyone for some reason.
Yeah, he's been
that's-
really good.
He's been unbelievable. Robbie Ray walks 400 batters a night, but he never gives up a
But he's
run
still
because you
coming.
can't hit him. And then you have Nate Pearson coming at some point.
Mhm.
CJ Zoic, I don't know. Tanner Roark's not a starter, but it doesn't matter because all of a sudden he's a reliever and he's doing a good job. He's been a great reliever though. Like he's had like one hit. He's given up one hit in like 6 innings as a reliever. It's ridiculous. I don't understand where that comes from. But then like your entire back end of the bullpen is gone. So like they said a really good point the other day. It was like Kirby Yates was supposed to be your closer. He's out. Jordan Romano was supposed to be your 8-man. He's out. Julian Merriweather was supposed to be a high leverage guy, and he ended up being the closer. He's out. Chatwood, who was supposed to be like your emergency go-to guy if all these guys aren't ready, he's out. David Phelps was out for a bit. It's like all of your high leverage guys are done. It's just like,
Yeah,
and they're still,
an advantage on the team, and
and they're still hanging in
awful.
there. Like they're 7-9, probably 7-10 after tonight.
we knew that like this could be a year like last year. Totally forget it. That's a mirage. Expanded playoffs doesn't matter. Yes, they were ahead of their time, but this year was actually like if you're looking at the
supposed to
holes in the roster, they were supposed to compete. But even if they made the playoffs, it still feels like they're early in terms of their timeline because we know of
Because the
Atkins and
entire
Chaparro-
core is still younger than you and I.
exactly,
Yeah.
and that all of the pitching in the system isn't up yet
No.
on the team. So
No.
like, how much can you really judge them at this point?
A lot of people have like panicked already and said like, oh, we need to be trading like Cavan for pitching help or like
No.
do something with Cavan. It's just like, stop. Cavan has the best OBP of the big three since they've all got to the big leagues, which is nuts. So like this is a stretch for Cavan that this is the worst baseball he's ever played in his life. This is not going to
He's also
continue
hurt.
the way that it is. It's fine. And then like you don't need to go get
He's hurt.
pitching. Yes. You don't need to go get pitching help this second because you have it. It's just not ready because they're all 23 and younger. Like, would it be nice to go get a Luis Castillo and make this team like a ridiculous juggernaut all of a sudden? Sure. Do you need to do it today? No.
You don't need to. You don't need to advance your timeline.
No.
Just for people that want to be impatient.
No. Like, Luis Castillo was a move you think about if you're competing near the trade deadline area, and like you think that'll put you over the edge. But it's not like, oh, we're not doing great at the start of the season. Let's go and get some pitching help. Like, they don't need the pitching help right now. Like, yes, the rotation's not good. I'm not sitting here saying the rotation couldn't be better. I'm saying that you don't need it right now because it's not the trajectory that you're on. Your year wasn't this year. The fact that the Yankees are being terrible doesn't mean you should be pushing harder. It's just continue doing what you're doing and create a team that's a World Series winner in 3 years.
Right. You're not building for this year. You're building for the long term.
Yeah.
And you're doing this all without your A-grade lineup. So.
Yeah, you still haven't seen George Springer.
Right.
And last year's Silver Slugger and Teoscar Hernandez. You're arguably your two best hitters.
And what did we say before the season was the biggest outcome? Or the highest ceiling for this team. If Vlad hits his ceiling.
Dude. He's punched through that ceiling and he is flying through it. I kind of like half jokingly said that like it wouldn't hurt to put a bet on Vlad as the MVP before the season because his odds were like plus 2,600. And I'm like, I don't know if he can achieve it, but the way he was hitting in spring training,
500 on base percentage.
Yeah, it's a joke. He was hitting 400 as of last game. He's now down to like 380.
I think the best thing that's come of it is clearly the weight. Him losing the weight has made a significant difference, and he's hitting home runs.
Not only offensively, defensively. He looks more mobile. The guy's doing splits.
Like what?
Like it's just unbelievable the strides he's taken this year. And like, if you get your full lineup back, he's probably your 3-hitter still. And like that's insane to think of what we were thinking before the season to what we are now.
Springer, blow. Springer, Bo, Vlad, Teoscar, doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter after that. Who cares? Yeah. Semien, who knows? Guy can hit sometimes, can't hit other times. It's weird. It's either leaving the park or it's a ground out.
Gone. Yeah, yep.
There's no in between.
Vlad already has a 1.2 WAR this season.
It's insane.
In the previous 2 years, he has a combined 0.6. So he's double.
He's reached what he was supposed to be. Career. Forget the Sotos and the Acuñas and all them. It's Vlad season, baby. It's Vlad season.
I haven't really watched a whole lot. I mean, I know. Like I'm in a baseball pool and I have Kevin Biggio, so that's the furthest extent that I followed baseball.
I have watched.
I got to start watching a little bit more.
What are the Jays at? This is their 17th game?
Yeah, this will be their 17th.
If you include all the other games I watched, I think I'm over 35 games of baseball that I've watched so far this season, at least. In the less than 3 weeks that this season's been out. It's just...
It's great because
I've invested too much time.
Yeah, it's true.
Hockey's just been so boring. I'm like, hey, new sport, let's do it.
Exactly.
I mean, fantasy. Cool. Fantasy is the only thing that's keeping me around for hockey. But honestly, I think I need a little mix-up.
Is that all we got this week, boys?
I think so.
I don't have an activity. I didn't.
Fernando Tatis, still fun.
Yeah,
still fun. Guy came back for one game, crunched a homer, like murdered it. Great.
I think that's going to do it though for this week. Yeah, we'll be back next week. I'm not sure what day.
We think
sometime next week. Yeah, we think.
We say it, and then we could be off for another month. Who knows? We're going to make another conservative effort to try.
Hey, you know what? We're all back in lockdown now.
Hey,
we'll probably be back next week.
We could wait another month, and I still won't have my room painted. Yeah. So
Guy can't buy paint.
Go another month. We'll go another month. We'll be right around the Leafs playoffs, and nothing will have changed. We're still going to be talking about what will happen if the Leafs.
A month from now, when it's almost playoff time and the league looks exactly the same, and we're back talking about should Jack Campbell be the starter?
Yeah, we'll just run through the works again.
Exactly. Well, that's it for this week. We'll see you guys next time. Peace.